when I was introduced to the Freeganism experience, I really didn't know much about it. But one thing that really confused me was the fact that we had companies throwing away perfectly good food that they did not need versus donating it or giving away to the people that actually need it. I did not understand how you are no longer making a profit over the food. It's no longer, benefiting you. It's not providing any more money since it's going to waste. It's gonna end up in some landfill somewhere. So why not provide it? Why not give it to somebody who needs it? Provide a meal for a family. Have somebody go to sleep on a full stomach. For the night.
All right, so Freeganism started in the mid 1990s um, out of the anti globalization and environmentalist movement. Freegans were looking for alternative strategies for living based on little participation in the economy, and they tried to reduce consumption of resources. The word freegan comes from two words, the word vegan and free. Freegans are individuals who choose not to eat any byproducts of animals or any animal tested products. Vegans do take this a step further by trying to avoid products that hurt humans as well as um, our earth in the process, not only just animals. So they try not to buy products or use products that have sweatshop labored or been destructive to the rainforest or cause global warming or any kind of water or air pollution. And instead of boycotting products from unethical corporations for human rights, um, many of them found that no matter what they did, they ended up supporting those companies regardless. So they came to realize that the problem wasn't a few bad corporations, but the entire system itself. Freegans completely boycott the economic system because they believe that the people in high positions care more about making a profit than they and they don't realize or care enough to notice that the products um, we buy from them have detrimental impacts, most of which we aren't even aware of. So instead of avoiding the purchase of products from one bad company only to support another, they avoid buying anything to the greatest degree possible. That's where they try to um, dumpster dive, also called getting reclaimed food. Half the time, most of the food that they throw away isn't even bad. It just has been sitting on the shelf a little bit too long.
I would like to give some statistics of how much food is actually wasted per year in America and in the world. America alone wastes 96 billion pounds of food annually. And after cars, the food system uses more fossil fuels than any other sector in our economy. It uses 19% of the fossil fuels. Now, when you take a closer look, 96 billion pounds of food ends up being a lot more waste than just the food itself. For instance, for 1 pound of beef, it takes 7 pounds of corn and 2,500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef. 40% of the world's annual grain yield per year is used to feed animals that will produce beef or meat for our consumption. When you take a closer look, 96 billion pounds of food wasted also ends up costing the economy more because it ends up costing us $136 billion that we are throwing away every year.
And while researching, I found that the most recurring factor is the fear of a lawsuit. Most of the companies don't want to be held accountable for if they give away their food and it turns out bad. They do not want to be accountable for it because they're liable to get sued by the person if they got sick from the food. And another recurring factor seems to be the transportation. How they're gonna get the food around, how they're gonna get it across to the people who need it. Um, I all these issues seem logical to me, but I still don't see why it can't be done. Because I believe where there's a will, there's a way. There are millions of people starving, homeless, every day. People walking the streets holding signs, need help. A mother with a sign saying, "I have 4 kids, help me." Right next to the local KFC. At night, all you have to do is just pass her, a couple of things that you don't need anymore, aside from instead of throwing it away. But many people don't do that, and they hide behind, a fear of lawsuit and things like that. But I feel that if this was a genuine concern, if this was something you were concerned about, you would find a way to get it
It's
done.
impossible to measure 96 billion pounds of food that's wasted because of the variation in food. But if you were to take the 96 billion pounds of food to put in a freight train, one freight train cart can hold 211,000 pounds of food. So if we were to fill up our 96 billion pounds of food in a freight train, it would take up 453,257 freight trains. And that would stretch all the way from LA to New York and then back again.
There are a few common misconceptions of freeganism. Freegans are definitely condemned for being freeloaders, and some groups even refer to them as human vermin because one of their misconceptions is that they eat spoiled or rotten food, when in actuality the grocery stores throw away food with almost a week before they expire. So the food is perfectly fine. Obviously, when they go dumpster diving, they're not going to pick up a spoiled piece of food and think that it's okay to eat it. They look for food that is good for them to eat, and a lot of them wash the packaging even before. If the dumpster is kind of dirty, they'll wash the packaging even before they open the actual food. Some bakeries throw out food at the end of the day, like all of their bread and products like that. If they make it in the morning, they can't sell it the next day, so they'll throw it out, and it's perfectly good. They just can't sell it as fresh the next day, so they get rid of it and they just throw it away. So they're perfectly fine. They just might be a day old, and they don't eat rotten food. A lot of them.
So why do people become freegans? Why do people get involved in the freeganism movement? Why do people dumpster dive? There are 3 main reasons why people do it. The first one is the one that was the main reason why I was interested in even doing this project as my cultural exchange, and that is simply for the fact of getting free food. As Americans, as college students, a lot of our money goes towards food, and I was just ready to take on any opportunity to save some money and use, what I would spend on food for something else. So that was what initially got me to do this project, and I'm glad I did. But that's really not that's not the main reason why people do it. Yes, it's nice to get free food. It's nice to even get a lot of food that you couldn't even necessarily afford on, if you were to buy it at a store, or maybe food that you would just never think of buying. You get to try new things. But there are 2 other reasons that are very important to freegans and to people who do dumpster dive. So the second one is an environmental issue. There's no secret that a lot of food gets wasted, not only in the U.S., but all over the world. And that goes for restaurants, that goes for supermarkets, that goes for individuals in homes. We're all guilty of it as well, including myself. So, and not only that, but bringing it back to the environment, just knowing that a lot of production goes into making food, a lot of, just gases come out of it, a lot of fertilizer and water and, animals and different things that make up, the food that we see in the supermarket. So just knowing how much of that gets wasted, and it's like, wow, there's no reason to even go through all that trouble if it's just going to end up in a landfill and no one's going to get to it. So I definitely think there needs to be a change in how we produce food and why we produce so much, if so much of it goes wasted. So people who participate in freeganism definitely are cautious about the environment. They take this as their step of going greener and of helping out this earth that is slowly but surely just getting ruined more and more. So that is a big reason. And then the third is to help others. Like I was saying, so many people are impoverished nowadays, And a lot of people take that as, you know, their chance to go feed a homeless person. You know, I'm dumpster diving, there's more food here than I can even, you know, take in my own house. Why don't I go give it to the homeless guy down the road, you know? There's also some organizations that, for example, the guy who was doing the documentary Dive on Netflix, he went to an organization called God Provides, and he gave them a bunch of food, and then that organization took that food, which it wasn't expired, it was perfectly safe to eat, so they gave that food to the homeless people and fed hundreds. So I just want to add also that Freegans definitely, they don't get sick like people would think. You know, it is rather, you know, sanitary. It's not completely gross like it, you know, a lot of people think it is, depending on, you know, how the garbage is thrown out and whatever, but it is definitely safe to eat, so that's no reason to, you know, not give the food to a homeless person or somebody who needs the food.
And all of this food that's being wasted could be going to people in our own country. 1 out of 7 households, not homeless people on the street, actual households of people trying to provide food for their families, are at risk of hunger every day. And the U.S. has the greatest surplus of food out of all the nations.
Almost a code of ethics with it. If you see something that you're not going to eat, you're supposed to leave it for someone else who might come by and dumpster dive that particular dumpster and pick it up, and always leave it cleaner than you left it or than you got there. And it's very much community based instead of just, you know, living for themselves. They very much have a community, and it's pretty cool that, and they also like share everything that they get and to benefit the community.
During our Freeganism experience, we went to a local Dunkin' Donuts, and because some of the workers saw us outside, saw the students outside, they purposely made the food unedible. And I couldn't understand that. I don't see how is that of any benefit to you. You are, if you as a worker, you're doing your job, you throw it away, you do what you're supposed to do. But if you see somebody looking for it, don't purposely mess it up so that you can't have it. What if that was gonna be my meal for tonight? You just made me go to sleep hungry because you wanted to be mean and dirty up the food so I wouldn't be able to get it. You did your job, you threw it away, so why did you have to go through the extra step of purposely making it unedible? I feel like the businesses hide behind this excuse of, you know, we're scared of a lawsuit, we don't want to be responsible for, you know, if you get sick. But I feel if it was something that they wanted to do, they would be able to do it. They'll find a way to do it.
This food can be used to help our own communities and people in our backyards that are suffering, worrying about providing the next meal to put on their table, and we're choosing to just throw it away to avoid basically just lawsuits. And people are taking the opportunity to take advantage of this food that's being thrown away that's perfectly fine. These companies are spending money on packaging to package food they're throwing away in the dumpster. So people are literally pulling out bags of food that's totally okay, and it's loaves of bread and fresh vegetables, or a bag of apples that has one bruised apple, or a carton of eggs where only one egg is broken and all the other eggs are totally okay. These companies are choosing to throw them out entirely, and people are learning to take advantage of this to provide for themselves and their families to avoid this, and they end up eating a lot better than they would or what they can afford to spend in a store. And they're saving, and they're trying to make a movement of providing for shelters, and hopefully we'll be able to expand and help other people in other countries that need our help, instead of just throwing away these billions of pounds of food and billions of dollars every year that it costs to produce this food.